what's the ethnic penalty?
Right.
And
how does it mix with immigration or immigrants?
well, and how does it compare to gender inequality?
Okay.
Because that's a
It's
conversation we've had
all
before.
the same processes
Right.
here.
Okay.
So you got to remember whether or not you're an immigrant or you're a female or you're physical ethnic minority. To get a job requires you having hard skills, but to actually be the top candidate, it has to be this idea that I can trust you. So the way it works is if I'm the employer and I'm trying to hire someone. I have very little meaningful interaction with a particular group, whether it's female, ethnic minority, or immigrant. In other words, I don't have any meaningful interaction. I don't trust that group because I have very little meaningful interaction.
There's minimal homophily, pretty much.
And there's a lack of trust.
Right.
I'm going to hire the candidate who I trust more versus the candidate I don't trust as much.
Because they signal to be in the same tribe, at least.
And I mean, that's one way to think about it.
Think about it, right?
And the way it gets played out in the sort of work is, let's just say you have 10 productivity points, and I have 15 productivity points. And suggests you're going to an employer who has, in his entire life, been around someone like you, so he trusts you more. Neoclassical economists.
Someone like me, meaning
your background, male,
Asian,
yes,
and my age,
and your age, and
socioeconomic status,
socioeconomic status, as well as born in Canada, right?
So stuff like micro stuff like accent,
mannerisms,
and being able to talk about Dawson's Creek or whatever.
Exactly.
Right.
And you find that employer is more likely to hire you, even though you're less productive than I am. That happens over and over again, and it's something that economists were baffled by until sociologists entered the conversation, because economists would say, "You hire me; I'm more productive. You're losing money by not hiring me."
Right.
But what they don't understand, what economists took a long time to actually figure out with sociological research, was people want to work with people they trust with. They're willing to take that productivity hit to work with people they enjoy working with.
This sounds like the classical conversation of rational choice,
right?
That economists think everything should be done in a calculated, rational, utilitarian kind of way.
Right.
But when sociologists come in, it's like, no, emotions,
trust. Exactly. This plays a role, major role.
So, right. So, I mean, if we're to slap a percentage on the ethnic penalty,
right?
How much are ethnic minorities being paid less?
So, for every dollar a non-minority earns, a minority would earn 75 to 80 cents.
75 to 80 cents.
Yeah.
Right. And how about the gender inequality?
A very similar ratio.
Right.
Fair.
So what if you're a double whammy? You're a minority and a female.
Yeah. It doesn't give you a double penalty to the point. So it's still 75 cents.
You're not down all the way to 50 cents.
No, you're not down.
So you're still
being penalized though,
right?
Dramatically.
Right.
Yeah.
And is this a North American thing?
This is global.
It's global.
So you got to remember, I've been doing this work in China. I've been doing this work in Australia, the UK, in Canada, the US. It's a similar process, right? It's not a Western concept. It's also in Asia.
So it's not like white power in America. It's more like majority
versus minority.
Right.
Those who are trusted the most are going to get the best paying jobs.
Now I want to give you a little push on that, right?
Sure.
In China, for example, or like at least in Hong Kong, because that's where my background is. In Hong Kong, during the 90s or 80s and 90s, white people had it pretty good, right? They had preferential treatment.
Right.
So how, I don't see this, so would this apply writ large, or got to be contextualized?
No, it's still the same concept though, because so let's just take it into the greater China context. Han Chinese, they have best wages relative to the ethnic minorities. We see the same case in Hong Kong. So native-born Hong Kong people tend to have higher wages than non-native-born Hong Kong people.
Oh, so if people came in from China, even if they come in from Shenzhen and they speak with
So there's always exceptions, of course. And the exceptions is if you have a group that's there already that has high wages, they're more likely to hire their own group. And that's how you see a variation there. But for the most part, you're hiring people who you trust. So if Cantonese people have the best jobs, high status jobs, highest wages, they're more likely to trust people who they're interacting with in a more meaningful way.
So in the case of Canada then, for example, if in Toronto, most of the Fortune 500 companies here are run by white male, then they would naturally be inclined towards hiring
So it's not
that true?
necessarily. I mean, it's not that simple. You gotta figure out who do they trust. So I grew up with Italians, for instance.
Okay.
And by virtue of that, I was hanging around a lot of Italians, and I trust Italians more than I trust non-Italians. So the trust actually, let's just say there's a default level of trust. It happens in childhood. So who you hang around before the age of 14, for instance, your meaningful friendships and relationships at those ages.
Okay. So
that's where you
why you're
establish
from
that
the 0 to
trust.
14 thing,
Yeah.
like the soft skills.
The soft
really
skills
develop
there are so important.
Right.
So that you can predict. You can predict so much. The odds of who you're going to marry, the odds of your wages, the odds of who you trust and don't trust, your unconscious biases, your implicit associations. You can predict most of this from a very young age. And so it's interesting how those formative years sets the tone for future years.